Welcome to our podcast, Resilient Heroes, where we are dedicated to showcasing the incredible journeys and contributions of women in the field of emergency management. I'm your host, Laura James. Welcome back to Resilient Heroes, the podcast that shines a light on the extraordinary women of emergency management who embody resilience in every sense of the word, from decision-making tables to boots on the ground. Today's guest is a woman whose leadership impacts the safety, preparedness, and resilience of communities across Ontario. She brings together public service, emergency preparedness, and a deep understanding of rural and northern communities. The Honorable Jill Dunlop is Ontario's very first Minister of Preparedness and Response, and she is also the Member of Provincial Parliament for Simcoe North. So, Jill, here at Resilient Heroes, as you know, we like to start at the beginning with our heroes' stories. So what first drew you to public service? Was there a defining moment or experience or some influence that sparked your interest in leadership and community advocacy early on?
Well, I'm going to say that's an easy question. That is actually both of my parents. So my dad was involved with municipal politics, and then was also the MPP for my area for 16 years. And my mom was also in municipal politics in our community. So, seeing both of them involved in the community is something that's, and obviously politics around the table was quite frequent
Oh my God.
in our household. So, both of them being involved, I knew I wanted to get involved in politics someday. But, I also worked at Georgian College prior to politics. And in that role, I was helping, taught some programs, but I was also working with students going into field placement. So I had a good understanding for our community and some of the work that we were doing, with the students and having them involved in their internships, co-ops, and then also volunteer opportunities. So I feel like I had a good understanding of my community and had a chance to, participate and volunteer in lots of activities. And so when the time came and the opportunity, I jumped right into politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's in your blood, really.
It actually is. Yeah, I'd kind of be the case study if it's a genetic thing or not. Definitely coming from both sides of my parents.
And so knowing that, how did those early experiences, because, your experience at Georgian College, but also the way that your parents pulled you into your community, how did that shape your understanding of what resilience and responsibility to community is?
Well, I think, I'm living in a small community. So I grew up in a little town called Coldwater, which I think was about 800 people when I grew up and is now about 1,100 people years later. Just, people looking out for their neighbors and being, really engaged in volunteer opportunities, or, when folks need help, whether it's through an emergency or, just help, around the farms, that kind of thing.
Yep.
It's just people coming together to support one another. And then, even in my work at Georgian College, we every year practiced, the fire drills like we see with our kids in, elementary and secondary school, and practice lockdowns, right? So these are important things that are preparing young people, to be better prepared if these things were to happen. So I think, seeing it in different areas is so important to the work that we do in ensuring that people are educated and practicing these things before they actually potentially could happen.
A true resilient hero you are. So, you are Ontario's first Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response. From all of our listeners' perspective, you hold one of the most critical portfolios in our provincial government. And I know that you started your first day on the job was mid-emergency or almost. So you were really drinking from a fire hose.
I definitely was.
Not an inside joke. It's actually when the ministry was announced and Jill came on board, we had a very severe winter storm here in Ontario, including ice, snow, many communities without power, without infrastructure for multiple days, including Jill's own community. So can you walk us through what the responsibility really looks like behind the scenes when an emergency strikes?
Well, that was quite the introduction to emergency management for me. And I remember when the premier and I sat down and he appointed me to this position. He goes, "Oh, it's going to be lots of fun. You're going to love it." And he came up to my area that week and he said, "Wow, I didn't realize it would happen this quickly." But I remember that morning, waking up to the ice and everything going on, and my first call being from the mayor of Aurelia, and the power's out and trees everywhere, and it wasn't just Aurelia. I know there was really cut across the province and really impacted a lot of areas and not having power. And I can tell you, I lived through it with my constituents. So when people were, talking about not having power and basements flooding and losing the food in their fridges, I was living the exact same thing. So I guess I was very empathetic to everyone out there. And, when I was able to tell the same personal story that, I'm, on day 8 without power as well. Like, I know what you're going through. I understand it. I was lucky enough to have a friend in town.
My basement is also flooded.
Yes, it did. Oh gosh, I remember my daughters, they said, when are we gonna, work on our house kind of thing? Because we were out of the country and we lost, a lot of trees, basement flooded, everything. And I said, look, well, let's do our place on Saturday. And they had a couple of friends who came over to help us, cut down some trees and everything. But it was, at that time, my focus had to be on not only my community, but all the impacted communities across the province as well. So, as I'm doing that in that leadership role, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about my own house and how am I going to get there to help with those things. But it was, really jump in and work with the all of the mayors and the councils as well. So I'm working doing my piece, and I was with my deputy minister at the time, and we were visiting all of the impacted areas and really seeing what was happening on the ground. But meeting with the CMCs out there who were working with their municipalities, but who are also working with our Provincial Emergency Operations Center. So, it really is seamless. It was good to see the coordination that happens behind the scenes. I think that general public doesn't actually get to see what's going on. I think people, especially when you're without power, all you're thinking about is, what's happening here and does anyone understand what's going on? But there really is that support behind the scenes. So we right away were able to deploy some of our Ontario Core supports to all of the impacted areas. So groups like Team Rubicon, who showed up with their chainsaws.
Yes.
And I saw them on the ground and, had a chance to talk with, not only the volunteers, but also the people at the door who were, opened the door to have somebody staying there saying, hey, I'm here to help. And I said, what are you hearing? And they said, people are saying, well, how much does that cost? And they said, it costs nothing. We're here to support. We're here to help out. And other people are saying it was like an angel showed up at my door. And so, that's just one of our NGOs. We had the Salvation Army was there with the food trucks as well. We had search and rescue out doing wellness checks door to door. Info 211 set up phone lines for people to call to get dedicated supports in some of those areas. So, we really relied on those partners to come in and help out in the areas. So there's a lot of coordination that goes on behind the scenes, but it is it's great to see that they are there to support when our communities are in need.
And I will say, Jill, and pay you a compliment, but say that you are so open and honest about being out in the communities. You share widely the messages for the community when something is happening, and you really get your hands in there when an emergency happens. We've seen you filling sandbags. We have seen you in reception centers. You are a woman of the people. You do see the communities across the province when they're impacted.
Well, I think that's important for people to see, right? Like and it's not just me. I have an incredible team who are
Yep.
at the ministry, who are working in the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, the field officers who are on the ground. So, I praise those folks for all the work that they do. And it's not just during emergency, right? They're working with municipalities 365 days a year. So creating those opportunities for education and training because, we're not just there to support during the emergency and after, but we also want to educate and prepare people ahead of time, which is so important.
And that's the key. And I love that you highlighted, it may seem like things are not happening, but behind the scenes, there's so much coordination from all levels of government, from all of the infrastructure holders, telecommunications, and our NGOs supporting that, it is great to highlight that The reason why we ask people to be prepared and have a 72-hour emergency kit is because that coordination does take some time. It can take 12 hours or even longer to get people first on the ground to support. So it is important that we really remind folks of preparedness, and that is really the key to resilience in our communities. And you putting the focus on that is really important.
Yeah. And I think
Now, I know you know. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the work that we do with our municipal leaders as well. Like I just was at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference the last couple of days, and we did a breakout session on Sunday morning with municipal leaders, and we gave them Operation Cold Front. So it was a tabletop exercise and had them work through it, and so they learn a lot from it, and it's great to see the number of people that come out to these sessions and they want to learn more. We did one at AMO in the summer. And so I've already had both groups reach out to us and say, hey, we need you to do it again for the next conferences. And, for my team, we love to see how enthusiastic people are. They ask great questions. And, for some of our mayors or councillors who've been through this, the advice they give to others, it's just a learning opportunity. So I think that's really important. And, part of my role as being the minister is to ensure that our municipalities are engaged in this as well. And, the ice storm for me, and having been my impacted area, I have a great connection with my mayors. So, we were texting and saying, hey, like, these are the supports we can offer you. And I remember one of my mayors said, we're thinking of opening a warming center, but we don't have cots and blankets. 10 minutes later, I texted him and I said, I could get you 300. And he was like, whoa, okay. We need to make sure we have the volunteers to run it. So I think it was, good for those folks to see as well that, there's a lot of supports from the province that are available. All we need is that phone call to reach out and say, hey, this is what we need. And we're there to follow up and ensure that we have those supports in place for them.
Thank you for sharing that. And I saw your pictures of your exercise on Sunday. It looked amazing. And what a great opportunity for those communities that have been impacted in the last year by any type of event to share their own experience of how we learn to be stronger together.
Yeah, like even the ice storm example, right? Like every municipality that was impacted had a bit of a different experience and was kind of sharing that with others. So we actually had one member who said, hey, can you do this again next year? And could we do a flooding scenario? So I'm like, yes, we'd love to do that with you, right? Like, let's look at different situations. So training is so important.
And at that level, at the political level, I think it's very important. We at emergency management get really, bogged down. We live in this world every day thinking about the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Our leaders have a million other things on their portfolio. So to have that time to make the high level connection and the high level discussions around what worked, what didn't work, what was painful, what was a rewarding experience. I love that you're doing that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We'll keep doing it.
Now, I'm going to talk about, something that we always talk about here on Resilient Heroes, which is about women in emergency management leadership. It's really kind of my generation that's the first to get to the top, so to speak, or director level. And it's always been a historically male-dominated space for good reason. Many of our previous predecessors and the folks that I learned the most from, they were retired fire chiefs or retired police. They came from some type of emergency services background. So, of course, those leaders for us were men. Mm-hmm. Now, at this time, there are so many women in emergency management across the board. And I'm giving that, that place for them to speak and share their responsibilities and what they've gone through and how they're lifting each other up. As a woman leading this portfolio, first of all, it's the first time this portfolio has been a portfolio for the province, and I'm over the moon about that. As a woman leading this portfolio, have you faced any unique experiences, or have there been any expectations of you that were surprising?
No, actually, it's but like you say, I kind of come in at a time where the generation has worked really hard to make their mark. You've got there. So I get to come at a time where I'm meeting incredible women who are doing such great things. And I love to see that. When I came into the role and, went through the first emergency, one of my lead field officers, female, she and like amazing young woman, a great background, like so much experience. At the end of the week when they headed back home, she sent me a really beautiful text, just talking about the experience, having been in Aurelia with me and everything else. And then at the end of it, she said, on a personal note, it's amazing to see a woman leading this ministry. And I just kind of like stopped for a second. I was like, wow, I never really even thought about it, right? We just kind of was like, I was poignant, and then I was in there and we were doing it, and I had this team around me and we're getting through it the best we can. And then like what she said really had an impact on me. And I thought, wow, like
Yeah.
she's looking at me as a leader, and I'm looking at her like, wow, she's got so much experience. Like, this is incredible. But I think that's, really, just, hit my heart for sure.
I mean, I know the field officer you speak of,
Yeah.
and she is so fantastic. She is on my list for Resilient Heroes, but is currently microphone shy,
Oh, my
unfortunately.
goodness.
But I mean, Jill, you have to know from the bottom of my heart, we were so excited and so proud to have you appointed to the ministry, and you have made such an impact in the short time that you've been here. Now, I want to ask you a follow-up question. Do you believe that your perspective as a woman influences how you approach preparedness and collaboration and engaging with the community?
I'm definitely very collaborative, and I don't know if that's, a female trait or for anybody, or is me specific, and also empathetic too. I think,
Yeah.
having gone through situations, and even, for example, when we help evacuate First Nation communities for wildfires or for flooding, just being very empathetic of the situation that folks are going through, right? We're an evacuation scenario, you're removing people from their home and placing them in other areas that they're not familiar with. They don't know the uncertainty of what they may be going back to, what their home may be like. It could be, you know, demolished because of a fire, etc. But just having that empathetic piece, but also I think I work very collaboratively with First Nation chiefs as well as our municipal mayors and leaders. So I've always been very open. Here's my cell phone, stay in touch, whatever we can do. So I think I bring that to the table. So I think I've also very calm person too. I know when I used to teach at Georgian College, my students would call me Chill Jill. So maybe my calmness, bringing that to an emergency and stressful situations is helpful too.
And I'm going to add one other observation that I've made is that you are a mom of, of girls, and you are such a proud mom, that I think that also impacts, because when you see families that are being impacted, you think of your own family, how that would impact you and your children, etc. So I think
Yeah.
it's part of your empathetic lens, that sort of motherhood, that is glossed over there.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And my daughters have always been very supportive. And a little funny story this Christmas, having my preparedness hat on, everybody got got a car emergency kit for Christmas, and they're like, "Oh, mom." I'm like, "Yes, this stays in your car. You need to be prepared, right?" And yes, you're always thinking of those things.
The boring Christmas gifts will one day come in handy.
Exactly. It's like the year I gave them all toolkits and same thing. And then they're like, actually, this is really handy, Mom. I can hang out pictures. I can do this. I can do that.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to focus a little bit on your work as MPP for Simcoe North. You represent communities that are often on the front lines of emergencies, and it's a unique area where you are because it includes rural. It's also considered somewhat the beginning of Northern Ontario. You also have seasonal and tourism-based areas where there's an influx of people at certain times of the year, and then relatively few people the rest of the year.
Mhm.
So how does representing these communities shape your approach to provincial preparedness planning? Do you feel like it gives you a broad lens because you can understand the vast differences among communities? And then what do you think people misunderstand about emergency preparedness in smaller communities or rural communities?
Well, I think in smaller, more rural communities, there, folks are actually better prepared to deal with emergencies because they tend to deal with them more frequently. So, to have a power outage for, a day or two, is not a big deal.
We're used to it.
I could tell you during ice storm when it was like 9-10 days, that's a lot. People start to get a little urgent after the 72 hours for sure, but they are a little better prepared. So I think that is a benefit to some of our rural communities and, probably also to me as a minister. The work that our field officers do with our smaller communities across the province, like they're very integrated in those communities. Our CMC leaders, know who those people are. They're dealing with them for education, for different conferences and things that are there. So they're very connected, and that's something I found with the municipal leaders are saying, okay, well, how do I call the PIOC? And I was like, well, actually, your CMC has a contact, and they know how to call them, right? So we don't need everyone calling the PIOC, but ensuring the right people are. So I think I'd say northern rural communities are a little more resilient than some of our bigger cities. But that being said, we do have people who are traveling into the area, like you said, for tourism, for up to their cottages in the summer. And just having that message of preparedness across the province is so important.
So you put a lot of thought and effort into your public communication, and I've already praised you for that, because I cannot say enough to our resilient heroes and our listeners how important it is that everyone is prepared. You and I both kind of have been talking about being the impacted ones while we're required to be at work, right? And so, I never need to worry that my daughter or my dogs are not taken care of, because personal home resilience is part of the package, because I need to be elsewhere when an emergency strikes. And so you put a lot of thought into public communication, and a big part of it isn't just response. You are communicating daily, almost many times throughout the week. And the message is always about how the province is getting better prepared, what you can do as a, just a regular person to be better prepared. And so I'm seeing a shift away from, the typical, well, May is emergency preparedness week, and into, let's talk about preparedness all the time. It is something that should be top of mind for us at all times. You just gave your daughters car kits for their cars. Well, we are entering, winter severe weather season. That's started a conversation about preparedness around that. So do you think there's a cultural mindset shift that is needed for individuals or municipalities to take preparedness seriously? Or do you think as we begin to get better and better at pushing the messages out, that will come?
I think it's a bit of both. And I think pushing the message out is important. And, I do it through my social media. My ministry does it through the work and training that they're doing, through the educational information that we provide to the general public and to municipalities that's there. That's important. But also, it really does start at home. So ensuring that, your family and your home and you have your emergency kits. So start thinking of those things, because there is that personal responsibility as well. And I want people to start thinking about that more. And sometimes, unfortunately, it takes going through an emergency to say, okay, I need to be prepared. And so that's, the educational pieces. And like I said, with my daughters, right? Okay, so they haven't been in a situation where the highway's been shut down, but you know what? They're prepared if that were to happen to them. But, changing that mind shift, and the collaboration too with, as I mentioned, with municipalities and the training we're doing. We just passed the Emergency Management Modernization Act back in December, and that really came with a lot of stakeholder engagement from municipalities and First Nations and some other groups that we work with, and working to have emergency plans within those municipalities and working together. So it starts at a personal level within your own home, but also something we can be working with all levels of government to ensure that we're getting that message across. That's not just during Emergency Preparedness Week, as you said, but it's something as part of the conversation all the time. So I know I had, I presented to my own MPP colleagues and said, okay, this is, what your role as an MPP looks like during a situation, after the situation. But I see, when things are calm, this is a good time to meet with your mayor and council, to meet with your CMC, to talk about what these emergency plans look like. And I think that's, a good spot for those folks, because during an emergency, they're also going to be to call in to people are wanting to know what provincial supports are there for them, and et cetera, et cetera. And really having that collaboration of all levels of government, and the personal responsibility is important too.
I love that. So we're tackling it on all sides right now, Jill.
Yeah, we really are, right? Everyone has a part to play.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I do love that personal preparedness piece. It is hugely important. And sometimes I do say to friends and colleagues, because they get preparedness speeches from me regularly, but preparedness really does start at home, and you need to be ensuring that your family is safe and ready.
I mean, it's the same as having, the batteries in your smoke detector, right? These are small little things that we can do to ensure that we're protected.
Now, I just want to take a moment to talk about mentorship, because we've mentioned it a couple of times. Throughout your career, you've become an outstanding role model for women. It doesn't matter what role that you have held, across the board. Did you have mentors that helped shape your path along the way? And I know that you said your parents were both very influential. Were there others?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've served in a few different ministries and met some incredible women in all those different areas, and still do. Like in each ministry I'm in, I tend to still go back and end up working with some of these people, which is incredible that we have that connection. But outside of my mom, I'd say when Minister Christine Elliott was with us, like coming into politics and being a new minister at the time, like watching some phenomenal women like that, the way they led with such calmness and professionalism. Like I thought she was incredible. It's not just female mentors as well. I worked with Minister Todd Smith. So when I was first appointed as the Associate Minister of Women and Children's Issues, I was kind of the senior minister to Todd Smith, who was Children, Community, and Social Services at the time. And I'd known Todd for a long time. He'd worked with my dad as well, but he was a great mentor as well that kind of taught me how to, I think, be a good minister and to work with your stakeholders and be really collaborative. But I also have like great friends too, Minister Caroline Mulrooney. So having somebody who's doing the same job as you, I think, is also important too. It's not just in the mentorship, having somebody who's understanding what you're going through. Because I can talk to her about these things, but my friends outside of that wouldn't really understand. So it's nice to have somebody within that circle within your profession that you could talk to. And then just the incredible women I get to meet along the way and hear those good stories. And obviously you're quite involved in Camp Molly. I think that has been, when I attended last year, like I loved it. I was blown away by what I saw in the couple days I was there. And I think opportunities like that for young women, helps to increase women in those roles. But then something like Camp Molly also shows young women that, okay, here's the firefighting profession, but look at all the professions that are available within that one area. So, yeah, I think that's amazing. And I, worked in this role with Camp Molly, but then, in other roles when I was at colleges, universities, and education, like looking at, things like the skilled trades. So, typically male-dominated careers, how can we work to get more women into those types of roles? So it's great to see in so many different sectors the work that is being done to provide that mentorship opportunity, or at least to have young women be able to kind of, open the door and look in and see what's going in those areas and see incredible women who are leading the way and who will be there to support them along the way too. And to be able to ask those tough questions and get honest answers about what the career really looks like.
Jill, that is what Resilient Heroes is all about. It's about sharing our stories. It's about sharing our experiences. And then what it's really doing is building a network of women who can connect when needed.
Absolutely. I had 1 year during, take your grade 9 kid to work day. I had a random grade 9 female from Milton contact my office and ask if she could come spend the day with me. And so my staff were like, do you want to do this? And I was like, absolutely, I want to do this. Like, if this young woman is interested in politics, yes, I want her to come in. And we had a great day together. And her dad even joined us at the end of the day. And, we still stay in touch. I think that's incredible. I think that's, something like a responsibility of us as women to be able to, if someone reaches out to us and says, hey, I want to learn more and teach me more. And, what does it look like for you? And what have been the pros and cons? Like, being available to do those kind of things. So I feel like I've had that opportunity, whether it was male or female mentors that were there to support me along the way. So I want to be able to give back and do the same thing.
It's amazing the work that you do, Jill.
Thank you.
So looking ahead, let's talk about what does success look like for Ontario when it comes to emergency preparedness and response. And I know that you recently had groundbreaking on a new facility. So there is lots in the works at the ministry.
There is. It's very exciting. I think the what does success look like would be what our slogan is, a safe practice of prepared Ontario. So that's my goal. But right now, outside of building the new headquarters, which is very exciting that we will have a dedicated buildings. We do share space right now where our operations center is located, but it will be also home to the Ontario Core. So that's something that has been something the Premier is very excited about. I am as well, is growing that Ontario Core. And so for listeners who might not know a lot about it, it is an army of volunteers who are there to support during times of need. I mentioned some of the NGOs who are Ontario Core members, but also anybody in the public can sign up and become an Ontario Core member. And that's what we want people to do, right? People of all ages to come out and help. And whether it's to make sandwiches for the volunteers or to fill sandbags, like people want to support and be there. Like once they know their home is secure and their neighbors are, they want to get out and help support. So that's what we're looking to do, is really build that Team Ontario spirit. So we have lots of good news coming in the next little bit, some great partners who are signing on, and we'll continue to build that.
I look forward to seeing everything that Ontario Core does this year. I'm going to link Ontario Core in our show notes. So those folks that want to learn about it or get more information, or hopefully, fingers crossed, sign up to volunteer, can get right into the portal.
Absolutely. That would be incredible. We have about 3,000 people signed up right now, and my goal is to continue to grow that number.
Fantastic. It's been a long time coming, and so amazing to see the boots on the ground.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, we talk a lot about resilience as a system, but resilience is also deeply personal. So when the pressure is high and decisions carry real consequences, which has been a reality for you throughout your career, how do you personally stay grounded? And this is a question I asked, all of our resilient heroes when the day is done or your shift is done or you're getting in the car and it's the end of your day, how do you take a moment for yourself, and what grounds you personally?
Definitely the gym. So fitness of any type, whether, sometimes you're in communities. Like actually, when I was at Camp Molly last year, when I was staying in Sioux Lookout, I got up early in the morning, I'd go for a walk because you can walk anywhere. So you don't necessarily need a gym to go work out. I think it's a good opportunity to clear your mind. I like to put on a good audio book or some music and go for a walk just to, some fresh air, clear my head, a little exercise. I think that's great for the body and the mind as well. So that would be definitely my go-to.
And another question for you, for women listening, especially those that are sort of on the fence, or perhaps they're looking for a career change, or they're just coming out of school and they're considering getting into public service or emergency management, is there advice that you would offer to them?
Definitely go for it. Either whatever career you're looking at, I think women are capable of anything. And, I luckily had amazing parents who gave me the confidence to do whatever I wanted to do. And I hope I give that same confidence to my daughters as well. And I think I do, because they're all in, very different careers. But I think, we're quite capable of anything. And if it's something that they're interested in, whether it's public service, emergency management, there's so many opportunities out there. And, even just in public service, for example, or being a politician, there's so many different roles with staff that are there, supporting me in my position too. And there's communications, there's policy, there's, stakeholdering, touring. There's lots of different positions within different careers too that I think people need to be mindful that are out there. But I get to meet great people, and in this role of emergency management, meeting women who are leading emergency management, and also, women who are leading in fire and police. It's incredible. I was at a conference in Calgary back in the fall, and I was talking to a group, and I said, "Gosh, I need a water." And out of nowhere, this woman comes over and hands me a water. She goes, "I heard you." She was like, "I got your back," and I'm like, "What? This is amazing, right?" So we had a great chat about why she was there as well too. So it's pretty cool.
So I love that. I mean, basically, you can do anything. Just give it a shot. Give it a try. The tagline for Resilient Heroes is "Unprecedented is what we do." And Jill, I'm just going to give you a little insight of where that comes from, because every time there's an emergency, I would hear constantly on the news, "Well, we weren't ready. It was unprecedented." But that's what we do. 365 days a year, we're preparing for the unprecedented. So, as women, we're ready. Yeah. Bring it on. We will build the community, and we will solve the problem all together.
Absolutely. And that's why we do these tabletop exercises, right? Is so that
Exactly.
It's right, these unprecedented things. It's like we've already, we get people starting to think about it so that, if and when it does, that they're better prepared to take that on. So I think that's my role as a minister in my ministry, kind of leading that charge to prepare, the municipalities, but also to ensure that we're preparing Ontarians for, what if.
Exactly. Now we're going to finish up with a quick lightning round. So don't overthink these questions.
Okay.
Just give me what's just on the top of your mind.
Okay.
If you could give Ontarians one simple preparedness habit to start today, what would it be?
Have an emergency kit prepared. And you know what? It can be anything, right? It can be your car kit. It can be something in your home. It can be something in your purse. But they're thinking about what does that look like. But having that kit prepared is important.
Love it. One snack that you must have during a long day of emergency response or in the legislature.
My favorite thing is the Fairlife protein drinks. I love those. And like a little shot of protein. And I can buy them anywhere, right? If I'm out on the road and in a different community, I know I can go to the corner store and pick one up. And it's something healthy and will get me through till I can actually sit down and have a meal.
I mix it sometimes with half coffee and sometimes more than half coffee.
It's my favorite thing at Costco.
What's one item you always want close by when things get stressful?
My running shoes, so I can walk or hit the gym.
I am exactly like you. If I have my running shoes, I will always be okay. So I have them in my car, in my office. I have them everywhere. Yes. That's a great item to have.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a difficult one. Some people don't want to answer this if I ask. What's a leadership lesson you learned the hard way?
Not having a generator at my home when my power was out. So lesson learned. We now have a generator.
Yep.
It's when you are called to lead and your own home is in shambles, and that's in the back of your mind. That's tough, right? You need to be completely focused. So, luckily at that time, I have some very responsible daughters who went out and helped to borrow generators that got moved around, but now we have our own. So I feel like I'm better prepared for that to happen. So it's hard for me to tell people to be prepared if I wasn't, but lesson learned.
That's it. Perfect. One word or phrase that you would use to describe the future of women in emergency management?
Well, I'm going to say that we are unstoppable.
Woo! I love that one. No one has said that one yet. I love it.
We have so much to give, lessons learned, taking our, personal, whatever that situation may be, and bringing that forward to support us as professionals, I think makes us incredible women.
Minister Dunlop, Jill, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your service. And thank you for the work that you are doing to help keep Ontarians safe and prepared. To our listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, please share this episode and continue lifting the voices of women in emergency management. And here's your challenge. Take one small step today to be more prepared, either at home or in your community. Then check in on someone else, especially a woman or caregiver, and make preparedness a shared conversation. Resilience starts long before the emergency does. Until next time, stay prepared, stay informed, stay safe. The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Buffalo Computer Graphics. All content is for informational purposes only. Are you or someone you know a resilient hero and would be interested in contributing to our podcast? We would love to hear from you. Please contact us at RHpodcast@buffalocomputergraphics.com.